So really, it's a matter of parents, being proactive, not being reactive, and also setting good standards, especially when the children are young. Sit there and help them. Even for adults, if you find yourself weaning off, get an accountability buddy. Say, I've been on too long. Tell me, it's time to get off. Or how can I, wean off of this? You have to be honest with yourself. You got to admit that you're doing it, and you got to control yourself or find ways to do so if it's affecting your life. So realize there are other things in life besides social media, and you got to sit there and seek those other avenues.
We're all Mavericks.
Welcome to Mamash Mavericks.
With your hosts, Maynard and Tove Breslow.
We're Olim and Gerim.
And we're also entrepreneurs and marketers.
October 7th changed everything,
including the way we do business.
This is the show that realigns your business and goals
with your values and people. Hey everybody, and welcome to Mamash Mavericks. Today we're joined by Matt Roseman. Matt is a personal technology specialist consultant for Matt's PC and Mac services. Thanks for joining us today, Matt.
Thanks for having me on, Maynard. I appreciate it.
No, grateful to have you on. We've already had a nice long talk about wrestling of all things. You're a self-proclaimed nerd. I'm definitely a nerd as well in a lot of things. And so today we'll be nerding out here together, talking about maintaining proper communication, connectivity of your multiple devices, right? So many things going on. How do they all communicate? How do they work? How can they work together and make us money here in business? And also how to provide technical infrastructure assessments, ensure computer continuity. Basically, how to make sure your computer, your system, everything that you need to make money is still working. So cool stuff to talk about here today. I guess before we get started, let our listeners know where you're based out of today.
I am in Southeast Florida, near the West Palm Beach area. So West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, that's basically my stomping ground. But, of course, you can remote in to mostly any part of the world. And I have clients in, New York and Baltimore and South Carolina, in terms of people I actually go to. But I have people that are, remote even in Canada. So again, that's the beauty of technology. It traverses so many not just different areas and professions, but also different parts of the world, because we are so technologically, based and, dependent. And just as all those poor people that don't have TikTok in this country. So, so
it may be a good thing, I would say, but we'll see what happens here in the end. But that's kind of the cool thing. Like you said, I say it all the time, we live in the future. And what's that like, working remotely with people? I mean, aside from telling them, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? Aren't there things that you need to do there? And, I remember the IT guy in my office back in my corporate days, working in an office, all that fun stuff. The IT guy was just always stomping around because somebody broke the computer, somebody broke the printer, all that kind of fun stuff. How are you able to? Who do you have to get mad at if you're working remote all the time? I mean, how does that really work? Break me down.
All right. Well, it really depends on the people and what's going on. For example, I had somebody that had webcam functionality issues. They had site problems where they couldn't log into certain sites. They had problems with Outlook and email, with syncing and their tasks. They had problems where the printer couldn't print two-sided because of a driver issue. So they had problems where the Windows and the OS was laggy. So I had to sit there and address that. So it's a number of nuances. So yes, there's obviously phone, but there's also video conferencing, through either FaceTime or WhatsApp or Google Meet, depending on a platform. So even though I'm not physically there, I allow for them to be eyes and ears. So if there's a machine that has a good hooked up, they'll hook it up, and I'll walk them through what cables go what and whatever. So almost kind of depending on what it is, you're walking somebody through open heart surgery to a certain extent, but yet you're making sure that they're putting things back where they should, and to make sure that they help. I had one guy who is in Connecticut, and he had problems where his Zoom would sit there and pull Snoop Dogg where you're dropping it like it's hot. And I had to sit there, and he boomed into a house, It turned out his internet was and his router was weak on the basement. He needed support on the third floor. I had to help him get a mesh network and get that working, and all the troubleshooting there, including Intel driver issues on his Wi-Fi card. So again, it's just that's what I specialize in, is a multitude of different either troubleshooting or functionality issues or connectivity issues that will get you overall better, peace of mind, better performance, and make sure that the technology works with you and for you, and basically not against you.
Yeah, you mentioned like walking someone through open heart surgery, and I feel like that is a big part of IT. I didn't actually become a doctor. I did again in med school. That's one of my claims to fame, and I took the MCAT. And I remember like one of the main things that we learn is just learning what what a doctor needs to do is cross out all the things that it isn't, right? Realizing what is not a possibility, and like, is that like a big part of troubleshooting? Is just kind of like, especially when you're remote, is well, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's got to be this or this. So let's try it out.
Of course. And so part of my job is playing technology Sherlock and looking for the computer clues. And so it really is, being, Spock and having the pointy ears and being logical, where it's like, okay, what pieces do we know? What pieces don't we know? And I had to go through the process of elimination to figure things out. Case in point, I had a lady yesterday who has IMAX, no time machine backup, got that working.
Wow.
Still had wireless issues. Turns out her modem, and she didn't know it, was 11 years old. It was so old that the box was cracking in terms of the plastic from the modem. And so that was pretty bad. And so she also had a Google Eero as well. So I had to sit there and help her with that. So it's the fact that nobody's really been there. She needs a whole bunch of work. She has 4 Amazon Echoes she wants to work simultaneously together, and then do act like a smart home, or a home hub. And so even things like that. So to me, it's what aspects do we know, what we don't, and what's the main contingency factor. Main contingency factor is internet connectivity, because guess what? I can't stream the TVs, I can't stream the Echoes if the internet is about as unstable as a 15-year-old for Justin Bieber or Ed Sheeran. So
no, and I think that's like the main thing. We got to update our stuff. We're talking about living in the future, and if we don't have like the pieces that can connect to the future, then we really, we're kind of being left in the past. That kind of stuff. And you mentioned, some of your clients. You also serve businesses, correct? And how does serving individuals and businesses differ, in terms of that?
Well, I would say probably the biggest thing is some people have home businesses and some people are retired, especially in South Florida, they call it God's waiting room. And so, especially with all the yentas. So,
yeah.
So for me, it is okay. The work is critical. Like, for example, I have 2 CPAs that I do work for, and one was down and one couldn't sit there and work during tax season. So for me, she couldn't print, she couldn't scan. That to me is pretty important. Also, you have to have redundancy, backups, local backup, online backup. If you can't do tax returns, you can't work, can't make money, can't make a living. So it's more mission critical on the business side. I do work for nonprofit. I do work for a manufacturer. If they can't ship out, for example, the manufacturer makes all coolers for heat and heat exchangers for boats and trucks. If they can't ship out their boxes of their items that they build for their clients because the machine that runs UPS World Ship and FedEx is down, then it can't make money. So again, what is mission critical? So that's really what it is that when there's a monetary source involved and it affects productivity as well as a loss of revenue, that's where the significance lies. As opposed to somebody who's home who already has money, it isn't their business, it isn't financially critical. But then if somebody's at home and their machine goes down, they can't function either. So again, it depends on the priority of which I perceive it to be, or I ascertain it to be, what the client believes it's a severity or not, and what I believe in the lower. For example, if you can't click on a website, it's not the end of the world. So, or if you're down, that's the end of the world. If you have no machine whatsoever, or you have no internet, or you can't work at all, that to me is a major issue. So to me, it's a matter of playing like the IT version of Dr. Phil and Jerry Springer, but also realizing, depending on if it's a business or a home, where the priority is in terms of my time and their functionality. So,
yeah, no, those are good points. As I was mentioning, right here we are, we're talking remotely. I live in Israel, and all of our clients, everything we're doing is in the United States. And this is like my pipeline. Literally the pipe, the shefa comes through and comes out of this computer. If the computer's down, it's a big issue, obviously, right? And
exactly.
backing everything up. And along the lines, using that analogy of being a doctor and kind of diagnosing everything like that. I think we talk a lot as well about healthcare and how it's kind of a misnomer, because really it's kind of sick care, meaning like people go to the doctor a lot of times, unfortunately, when something's happened already, as opposed to maintaining, getting in shape, doing things preemptively. They kind of call only when when something comes up. And how much of that happens with you as well, where people they're only calling when there's an issue? And what can people do? What can businesses do to kind of protect themselves, to make sure that they're kind of having good connectivity health and device health and everything else that goes along with being able to run a business?
Again, two good questions, Maynard. So in terms of breaking in the first one, it really is a crapshoot, like 50-50, because there are people that are proactive that will let me work, and then I'll sit there and engage in their different devices or their software, the software stack, what have you. And there are people that don't call me unless it's broken. And so I always try to equate technology as like going to get your teeth cleaned, or going to the doctor, or even a car. I mean, you would not go a whole year without getting an oil change for your car. um it's the same thing. So I say at least once every, depending on your usage and how heavy of a user you are, or how heavy of an IT infrastructure your business is, having back every 3 months. Now, are there people I go to every month, like for monthly maintenance, like one of my CPAs? Yes, I'm going there this Saturday. But there's some people I see every 3 to 6 months, because they know it's because of past experiences that I need back that often. I mean, hell, I go to my dentist every 3 months, because I know with all the teeth that I drink, I'm going to need to get my teeth cleaned. So really, it's I know it's very cliche to say, but what you don't know in this day and age, especially technology wise, can hurt you, especially with identity theft, or not having certain functionality, or knowing certain problems. Like the lady from yesterday had no idea her modem was 11 years old, and she wonders why she's having internet problems. So again, it's not okay. Matt needs to make a living. It's okay if you address these things now, and there's some type of regular maintenance. At that point, your TCO, or your total cost of ownership, goes down over time when certain things are maintained. So really, it's being somewhat proactive. You don't have to be so proactive. You can't neglect your devices, or your assessment of where you think everything is, because you might be surprised at what I find for you.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, a lot of good stuff there. I guess I have a whole bunch of follow-up questions. I guess we'll go, kind of one by one. How many, you mentioned there that, some people are going and you're checking their stuff out once a month, and some people are going in, 3 months, 6 months, whatever else it is. What is really the proper amount of time that you should really get your stuff checked out and updated, and making sure everything's okay? Does it just depend on the size of the business, or the technology they have, or what they're doing? Or is there kind of like a general like you mentioned, getting your car changed, every 10,000 miles or, kind of thing. What kind of is the mileage number there that you're going to want to have Matt on the phone checking yourself out?
I mean, the minimum I say is every 6 months. The reason why is that the industry is always changing, always changing. All new OSs, whether it be Windows or Mac or Chrome or Linux, iOS, iPad OS, Android, Chrome OS, all these different things are coming out. All different devices that you sit there and use, your router, what's going on there, the internet. So uh, the minimum is 6 months. I mean, should I be back? Depending on how heavy you are with usage, every 3 months, fine. But also, too, I have tools that will automate some of the updating and automate some of the maintenance. So if you're an existing client, then I give you certain things to help either protect you or to maintain certain things to a certain extent. It can't be 100%, but at least something is done where you are either protection or maintenance is somewhat automated that I provide. So that's the key, is that, for example, what's important, like, for example, I have people that are so cheap that won't buy a Windows 11 machine. I have people that are on 12, 13-year-old machines that refuse to upgrade to Windows 11. And I'm going to have a nice talk with those people this year, and there'll be a lot of tough love and a lot of Jewish guilt, which kills you from the inside. So those people are the ones that are really stubborn, and they're being schnorrers, and it's going to come to bite them in the ass, because once Microsoft stops supporting them, I go into a very different person. I will not warranty any work for any Windows or any machine that the operating system is not supported, whether it be Mac or Windows or Android, because the thing is, I don't want to be held liable for the fact that you don't want to sit there and spend the money. I always tell people, you want a product that has a warranty of some kind, usually, and you get oil changes. If you have no warranty and no oil changes, you got a problem. And so it's hard to get people to see that intrinsic value of, well, it's working, why should I go update it? And so until they get compromised or something happens, at that point, they don't see the significance. And you know what? You have to have people fall from grace sometimes and fall on their ass to sit there and learn, okay, yeah, maybe I should have done that. So again, I don't mind if you wait 12 or 13 years, but after 13 years or 12 years, you're going to have to go upgrade. Otherwise, you're going to hear about it from me. So again, I'll give you a grace period, but it only goes so far. So that's really the key, is that if you update your products on a regular basis, one or 2 months a year, if you buy equipment that's fairly new that can be supported, I don't have a problem with that. If something's so outdated, at that point, it's compromising either you or the product with going forward, which has to get addressed.
Yeah. I think sounds like people, you give diagnosis and it's like somebody going to a doctor and they tell them what to do, and they're back out there eating the same way they're eating, or not exercising, not doing the things, the suggestions, and then being surprised when the numbers or whatever and the blood work is still up, and the same kind of thing, where you let them know, hey, this is what you should really be doing, and then it's fine, the computer's fine. And coming from my perspective as well, I think it can be difficult, because obviously technology moves very fast. And I want to definitely get into security stuff and into software stuff. And I think in terms of just the machines in them itself, I recently had a MacBook 2015 that I got in actually 2017, which I guess is pretty old already, right? I mean, we're 7-8 years into that thing, right? And it just went down. But it's such a great machine. Like, it's such a great machine. And part of it is, like, it's such a great machine. It's almost like they don't even make it like that anymore,
Yep.
in certain respects. And at the same time, it's like, this whole conspiracy theory of planned obsolescence, where it's like, okay, is it not supported because it can't run it? Or is it not supported because you, want to sell a new computer? And of course, now then I look at the computers and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of new features, a lot of stuff that was just not available 7 years ago. These things weren't even, AI wasn't, people were doing AI for sure, but it was not at the level that it is now. and in so many other things as well, in terms of graphics and media and file sizes and everything else that's changed just even in this amount of time, that wasn't there. I mean, what's your take on that in terms of the kind of quality of new work versus the need to get stuff not just for security but because of features and everything else like that? Do things really still match up as they once did, or is it just an imagination?
Well, again, the thing is that for example, I had another client, 2015 MacBook Pro. Speakers finally went. I told him back when Apple stopped supporting that laptop, I think he was still on like I think like Ventura or something like that. Which is like, like OS like 11 or something like that. I said, you have to get off of this thing. Apple's not supporting it anymore. And he fought me until the speakers broke. He finally called me after about, a year and said, Matt, I bought a new laptop because I can't hear anymore. And I can't go on my Zooms. But ultimately, Apple does two things. Number one, they assess what their new OS is capable of and can the old hardware run it. So usually, as the bi-memory Bullemeister, you'll get about 6 to 7 years of major Mac OS updates on your machine before they deem to be obsolescent. So also, the big thing that changed Maynard is they went from Intel to Apple chips.
Yeah.
And so that architecture between the memory, the CPU, and also the graphics processor is all integrated now where it wasn't before. Plus, the Apple chips run cooler than the Intel's one did, and then they allow that to have their AI through Siri or ChatGPT, what have you. So again, the hardware has to support the software that's coming out, and of course now with the new Mac software, you can mirror. Obviously, you have AI in certain, apps like Pages and Keynote and Numbers and stuff like that. So ultimately, and you have AI now in the Creative Cloud too. So again, it's a fact that newer memory, newer CPUs, newer displays, newer Wi-Fi, newer webcams, all those things have changed in those 10 years, and that's what you're paying for. So I'm very lucky where all my major Macs now are all either M2s or M1s. I have, my iPhone is a fairly, iPhone 15, a 17 there, Pro, which I get the AI on there. My iPad Pro M2. So again, all those Intel chips, I get those newest features. So it does make a difference that it is hardware because I keep getting those old changes. But my iPad Pro, is leagues better than my iPad 2 when I first bought it. So even though it's basically, kind of does the same thing, there's so much more you can do with the new one as opposed to the old one. So really, it's not just features and money, but if you jump generations and you wait, at that point, it's worth the money to go and sit there and spend. And so I always tell people, buy more than what you need because at some point it won't be enough. And then that will help, avoid the sting and the aggravation of having to pay and buy new things just to keep up with the Joneses, as they say.
Wow. No, that's a good point. And I'm surprised too that it sounds like you're an Apple guy. It seems like a lot of nerds are PC, Linux, Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
you just have everything. You have everything for,
exactly.
Okay, great.
I build my own PCs, but I'm still an Apple nerd because that's what, pays the bills. So in that respect, I'm and so I swing both ways in that respect.
I love that. So I feel like it's such a passion thing where it's like, this, that, it's like, why one or the other, They both have their purposes.
Yeah, hell, I have people that even have Chromebooks. I have a Chromebook. I have people, not too many people dabble in Linux, but I at least know some of it to help people out with that too. Command prompt, I grew up on that. So with DOS. So again, it's really, where can I help you? Because I'm very lucky and fortunate. This is my passion. This is my hobby and my professions, and my heart's into it. And you can't bullshit passion. Either you have it or you don't. So I'm very fortunate that what I do is truly, my love to sit there and do so to pay it forward and give my mat mitzvahs to other people. So
the madness, the madness is good stuff. I think we talk about that the continuity issue and some hardware stuff, but as we see, it's not just about technology that's moving forward. It's security and staying one step ahead of the hackers, or at least one step behind them, at least, so they're not so far ahead of you. I mean, talk to me about the issues that businesses are facing with security. I'm here in Israel, which is the land of security, basically. A lot
sure,
of the
especially the
cybersecurity is over here.
IDF. Sure.
What's that?
Especially with the IDF,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And Israel is very, because of what's going on over there. They have to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's really the biggest problem, is that identity theft and scams and fake messages are rampant. They're rampant on your phone. They're rampant in your email. You have script injectors in your browsers where there's malicious code that just by visiting a site, you can get infected by an ad or by code that's in the site. So, I mean, hell, you could sit there and get your passwords compromised and get all your accounts hacked and then get shut out of your accounts, because what most people don't realize is that auto-saving your accounts and auto-filling in information like credit cards or things like that is one of the worst things you do in your browsers. As much as people love it, it comes at a cost, because what happens is that browser will issue something what's known as a session cookie, and that's like the master cookie to get into your machine. So if somebody can compromise your browser, they can access that session cookie, get into your accounts, and then shut you out of your accounts. So happen to people on YouTube, happen to people on different other streaming platforms. Facebook is a big problem with people getting compromised and hacked in Facebook. So I help people to avoid all that and to not go through all that mishigas. And so really it's a matter is you have to be proactive. You cannot be reactive, because it could compromise you, your business, your family. So really there's a multitude of different protection methods that I help people implement, both on the hardware and the software level, to make sure that you are protected. And I always tell people, I may not be able to avoid the car crash, but I sure as hell can give you a better seatbelt and airbag. So,
and a lot of times you can, prevent the car crash. I guess, even that tidbit on saving stuff in your browser. I mean, how does that compare with using something like LastPass, to save passwords? And should you just only save passwords and not credit card information? Or I mean, do any of these things, Dropbox has their own password stuff now. Are all these things on the same level, or is there something where you're like, okay, like this may be better, a little bit better, or this one's way better?
Well, I mean, to me, it's the problem with password managers is that if they get hacked and compromised, so do your accounts. So I have other methods to save passwords where it's not depending on a third party. And if you really want something, Bitwarden has done very well. And so I recommend that for several clients, and that has not been compromised yet. But it's also, how much protection do you have on your devices? How much protection do you have in your accounts? How many hoops are you jumping through like a circus animal to make sure your accounts are secure? And so that's really what it is that it's not just, okay, it can happen to other people, but not me. You have to make sure it doesn't happen to you. And so it's much more convoluted, and it's much more intricate now to protect you from what's out there, especially if you don't know any better, or God forbid, your device is compromised and you have malware or spyware on it, or you're being tracked with like a key logger, which logs your keystrokes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, well, there goes I used LastPass, so I guess now I'm going to have to figure something else out. What about something, I don't want to stick too much on this, but I think it's interesting and I think it's valuable information to anybody, right? What about something like keeping it on like notes or something that's on your computer that isn't a third-party stuff? I mean, this stuff is still hackable, or this stuff is safer in some way, or where do you have a notebook of passwords, or how do you actually keep track of your passwords?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So the problem is that unless your computer is secure and encrypted, again, that's the key. Is you want your machine to be encrypted, both on the hardware level and on the software level. So God forbid something happens, somebody can't easily get in, or you can always delete the drive, whatever it is. So I keep abbreviations of accounts on my iPhone, but I have protection on the account. I have protection on the device. So, and I have safeguards if you get my device that that device is wiped out remotely. So again, yeah, I mean it's a matter of thinking about the what if, and that's where I come in to think about those what ifs for you, and to pull like a Hootie and the Blowfish and hold your hand so you don't have to worry about it. But really, it's how much protection do you have going forward in case there's a problem. And so, so far I've not been hacked or compromised, thank God. But ultimately, I've been with people that have, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to have me help them. It's heartbreaking to hear their stories of despair because their lives are upheaval, especially the elderly. The elderly, unfortunately, are very heavily targeted because they don't know any better and they're more trusting. And I see all these people answer phones from all these scammers, like the Microsoft tech support scam, or another tech support scam, or Social Security scam, or something of that nature. So really, you have to screen your calls and you have to be paranoid. Like not like Black Sabbath paranoid, but pretty paranoid, And so otherwise, what you don't know can hurt you. If you're not sure, ask somebody who knows, or hire somebody like me who can help walk you through what has happened and where to go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard to navigate, and as you mentioned, especially the elderly and being kind of easy targets, and you hear about the gift cards, and they have to go and educate people, and all the different things, all the different ways that the people are losing so much money, and it's wild. People just going on there calling all day, and for one, however many times they're getting people, every once in a while. It's really, really sad.
It
I
is.
guess, oh man, I blanked. Hold on one moment.
Yes, I feel you're sorry. We should say the Mortis Cottage for all the people that sit there and have had identity theft. So
Yeah, no, it's really tough. Oh, I think a lot of people almost look at it like, of course, you hear the horror stories, and like you said, people think, well, that was not gonna happen to me. But also, people are just kind of like, oh, well, so what if this password's out there? So what? It's almost like a level of when you sign up for social media and you just kind of, or they update their terms and conditions, and you just like click OK on whatever it is, and it's like that South Park episode where it's like you agree to all of this.
exactly, which is hilarious. So
and I think people nowadays almost just are so disillusioned and disconnected from it in a little way that it's kind of like, whatever. It's an inevitability that this is like part of our life. We have to sign our life away to be able to use the conveniences that are in front of us. Or, of course, one of the services I'm going to use is going to get hacked and all my stuff's going to be compromised at some point. I mean, is that kind of mentality we should be having? How do you go about terms and conditions and all these kind of things that go on, social media, any kind of third-party service we're using, anything like that? And how can we actually navigate in 2025 with so much craziness going on in that regard?
yeah, and that's a problem, Maynard, is that so many people, and I'm very guilty myself, are lackadaisical. I haven't said that word forever. When it comes to wanting to read the end user license agreement or the EULA. And so those things are so elongated and they take forever. It's like you're reading a novel just to be able to use something. And people get burnt out and they get numb and they get frustrated. I'm like, okay, I just want to use it. Okay, I'll just click it, or I'll tap it. I don't have the patience to read it because we're subject to it all the time. and it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So it's like either I use it or I don't, and I gotta read all this stuff. I can't remember all this stuff. I mean, can you remember everything that they say in there? You can't. And the thing is, these companies know that. So your data is a gold mine. It is like, California during the 1800s, and they're all digging for gold.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Kanye, where they're gold diggers. And so that's kind of what it is the fact that there's always that compromise between convenience and security and privacy. And so people are willing to give up their privacy to have their convenience, to have their endorphin hit, to have their serotonin levels up. And so that's the problem, is that it's almost like it's a necessity, and I have to agree to it anyway because I really don't have a choice. Same with buying an Apple device. Same thing with signing on to Windows. Same thing with going on to Google, or Samsung, Facebook. I mean, they're all guilty of it, and they know that. And again, your information is their Hanukkah or their Christmas present. And so you have to realize that depending on which country it's coming from, that could be a problem. Like the biggest thing, one of the biggest vendors is Rovio. People who don't know who Rovio is, the Angry Birds on your phone. There's a reason why they're angry, because they're taking all your information. And so,
I remember.
Yes, so Rovio loves to sit there and track everything about your phone, your metrics, where you're going. And so that's a lot of people. What people don't realize is that when you get an app, that app, depending on what it is, that company could be tracking your location, your phone number, where you have gone for your history, the number of apps you're downloading. So again, all that is marketing information for them. So you have to say, okay, is it really that important or not? And so ultimately, it's hard to say no to something that is so addicting. But it's a matter of self-control. It's also a matter of being aware of what you're signing your life away against.
Yeah, and it is really sad that we're in an age where we've accepted that we can't trust big companies, and as we've said so many times, bear repeating, that when you're using a free product, you're the product. And really it's your data and your privacy and everything that's going out there. People are like, oh, I have nothing to hide. What's the big deal? And it's like your identity, everything else, and whatever's going on. And like I said, it's really sad that we've just kind of gone along with it. Really, we should have had a revolution, or at the very least had a collective decision to not use these products until they fix that thing. And I think there's definitely certain apps that I don't have on my phone. I'll go on Facebook every once in a while, which I don't very often, but I won't have that app on my phone. Same with the Messenger, and Instagram I have every once in a while. I use it and then delete it, and use it and delete it, because I just don't want this stuff on my phone all the time, tracking and listening. We know for sure, obviously, that it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a fear-mongering to just say like they're listening to everything that's going on, and there's a reason why you say something and they serve up an ad right after you said that.
Exactly, because your microphone is tracking you.
Yeah,
and your AI in your phone is tracking you, whether it be Android or Apple. And so we really are living in like George Orwell in 1984.
Yeah,
where it's Big Brother and you are being watched.
And we've done it to ourselves. They didn't have to tell everybody, oh, you're all commanded to do, you have to do this, and this is the law now. We're like, they made it fun for us, right? They said, oh, we don't have to force them to do anything. We can just make it, that it's fun and addicting. And if you don't have it, you're a weirdo. Who doesn't have that? What do you, boomer and everything. So it's a crazy time in that regard. And even now, right, with the whole TikTok thing, it's become a joke. It's become a meme on the internet where people are like, oh, obviously it's Trump's fault, right? It's stupid Trump and or whoever it is. Oh, old man Biden, everything. And oh, what are we going to ban next? Mom and pop Chinese restaurants. And it's like, no, listen, the mom and those moms and pops, the government that they ran away from to get away from, that's who they're selling your information to, and this is like, it's serious business. The same thing, Temu, Shein, all these apps that are on our phone. It's bad enough when you have Instagram and Rovio or wherever else it is that they're tracking all the stuff going on, listening to you, when they are actively using data to militarily attack us or to institute algorithms that are going to brain rot, right? They're going to manipulate our decisions, and we don't even understand what's going on. We talk about hacking systems and hacking passwords and everything like this. The main thing that's being hacked, I think, now is our brain, right? We're hacking our brain and knowing exactly how to stuff information there without us realizing, and how to hypnotize us, literally. And people are walking around thinking that it's their own thoughts when they've just been placed in there.
Yeah, and so even though we have all these ways of connecting socially, we're more lonely than ever because of the fact that we're so dependent on our devices. And the problem is, like, in this country, everybody went ape shit when TikTok shut down, and kids couldn't get their endorphin hits, you couldn't watch your videos. Yeah. It's like, what did you do before TikTok? Life and society and humanity somehow went on before we had TikTok. And so I think it's funny and sad and hilarious that we are so dependent on our devices for a source of either revenue or for recreation that it's almost like a child, and you take their tech toy away and everybody throws a tantrum. And that's exactly what happened in this country when TikTok got shut down. And even though supposedly Trump is going to bring it back again, you still can't get it in the App Store. So do I feel I do generally feel bad for the people that were content creators on there and that used that as a platform for their living, but I hope they had other methodologies of making money besides TikTok. So if it's used for business or for legitimate reasons, then that obviously is a loss. But if they're just browsing videos on there and it's just, a source of entertainment, there are plenty of other things to do, or help somebody do some mitzvahs, watch something else, contribute to society in a better way. TikTok will survive whether you're on it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we're seeing is the way that people reacted when it first happened, and we're seeing now is withdrawal symptoms. You really see, what happens when you take somebody's drug away from them, and this is really what we're seeing here. And another thing is of course, it's definitely a lot of people are affected by it financially. It is sad. It shows the amount of money, I guess, and things that are being that's being produced for, don't want to say worthless, but when your job is to be an influencer, which means that you're basically creating a platform, creating followers, people to then go and sell stuff to. So then you are like the liaison, somebody in the middle, where you are just peddling products of people who want to pay you stuff, right? And that's kind of become your thing. We wonder how much value is that bringing to society in itself. And it's one thing if you have a business that's providing value or providing something, making something, and then you're using these platforms as a tool, right? Marketing is always changing. Marketing changed when radio was around. Before then, I'm sure somebody figured out to write on cave walls at some point, to market their stuff. Their sandal 2000s, whatever was the big product of that time. People have been figuring out the medium for marketing. So when it's used as a medium, that's one thing, right? But when it's become the end's actually not just a means to an end, I think we just kind of see where we're at with that. So, where's your stance on all these kind of things as well in that regard?
Well, you have to know, I would say, probably your tolerance level and your moral code, and realize that all these are external sources of happiness,
Yeah.
and internal happiness should come within. Or as my friend here says, you can do it. So exactly, the label says ages 3 and up. I barely qualify. So really, yes, it's good to have YouTube or TikTok, whatever, but you have to have a balanced life. You can't live on social media and your devices, and especially kids now in this day and age, they're glued on their devices. So it's more, I would say, more of a psychological issue than it is so much a technical issue. And so um, the mental aspect has to be addressed where parents have to get involved and monitor kids, or you have parental control for your devices where you limit the kids in terms of what they're doing. But really, it's having a balanced life where social media is a part of your life. It's not your life. And if
Yeah.
you're, and if all you have to, if you're doing that it's like a drug addict. And so
Yeah.
you need help where you need to sit there and wean off of it or have some level of self control. And that's hard, especially when you're getting those constant hits of endorphin and adrenaline and serotonin. So really, it's a matter of checking yourself or having somebody help check you if you are that bad. Is your livelihood or not? You know, is it affecting you and your work or your schoolwork? So really, it's a matter of having that reflection to say, where do I want technology and social media to be in my life, and how is it going to benefit me, and how's it going to be detrimental, and do I put limits on myself? Nobody has that clairvoyance to have that level of self control. But if you're out of control, then at that point you could be affecting your not only your life but other people as well. So
Yeah, yeah, and affecting other people, including our children, and children. It's very difficult because you see how adults become addicted to devices, to screen time, to scrolling very, very quickly, and we're talking about people who, at least for the most part, had a chance to allow their frontal lobe to develop, right? And when we're talking about kids who are still developing, it's really, really, really sad where people see the kids that just it's almost like they didn't have a chance, where right away they're being placed in front of all this stuff, and
for sure.
their brain just can't even deal with it. They have no way of knowing how to make decisions or how to learn or what to believe and what to think. They're just being literally just like, it's like hooked up like the Matrix and downloading whatever it is that they want. And there's no filter to be able to discern what is real, what's not real, what is truth, what's not truth, and what do I really believe, and what is it that I'm just being spoon fed.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you can't choose between the blue pill or the red pill either.
Yeah.
So, and so that's the problem is that like I have a 4-year-old nephew. Same thing. He's glued on the TV, all his different shows, all the things that my sister-in-law puts on for him on YouTube or for kids and stuff like that, or um he sometimes will go on my brother's Switch and play games there too. So, but he also at least my brother knows to get him out of the house and go to the park and go play. And so really, it's the fact that um, you as a parent have to intervene. You can't use the phone and social media always as your babysitter. And I think that's what too many parents rely on. Okay, I'll stick them in front of the TV. I'll stick them in front of a phone. You have to be able to teach your children about having a balance between technology and social interaction, because if you're constantly looking for that instant attention, it can lead to loneliness and anxiety, and that will affect you in your life, as you get older. So really, it's a matter of parents, being proactive, not being reactive, and also setting good standards, especially when the children are young. To sit there and
Yeah.
help them. Even for adults, if you find yourself winning off, get an accountability buddy. Say, I've been on too long. Tell me, it's time to get off. Or how can I, wean off of this? Don't be afraid to ask for help, because it is an addiction. And like any other addiction, you have to be cognizant of it. You have to be honest with yourself. You got to admit that you're doing it, and you got to control yourself or find ways to do so if it's affecting your life. So realize there are other things in life besides social media, and you got to sit there and seek those other avenues out too.
Wow, so much stuff to get into in that, and we can talk about that forever because it's just so fascinating. You mentioned that we were talking about these avenues and kind of the main avenues, these platforms, and I think one of the main things that people actually use it for, that is meant to be used for, that has become the source of revenue, right, for these platforms is, marketing and that kind of stuff. And how do people find Matt's PC and Mac services, or how would for anybody else out there who is in IT and has their own business, what's the best way to get out there and get new clients and put yourself out there and help people that obviously not only need help with their computer, but like you were saying, right, to be proactive and to have you coming in every 3-6 months to make sure that everything's up to date. How do people find you?
Well, I mean, obviously, being in South Florida, the best thing to do is just Google for computer repair service or Mac service or IT service. In where for example, I'm in Palm Beach County. I typically will go on Zooms. I'll do in-person meetings, and so also have repeats referrals as well. So, and at some point there'll be more social media, more YouTube, what have you. Also LinkedIn. People find me through LinkedIn as well. Through Matt Roseman on there. So, I mean, those are probably the big ways. Obviously, you found me as well, through search, what have you. And so, really, the beauty of who I am is that I will assess who you are in your situation, whether I make money or not. And so I'm very candid and open in that respect. If I can make a living, great. If I can't, or I find it's not advantageous for you, I'm going to tell you that as well. So really, that's the beauty of who I am. And so really, those are good methods of finding me. Obviously, Maynard, I provided you my contact information for you. So if anybody has any questions, concerns, or you're not sure where you are in terms of your home or your business, when it comes to your devices, even your smart devices like your TVs or your speakers, your smart speakers, or even your refrigerators or your gaming systems, all that falls into my nerdy wheelhouse. You can find me at mattspcservice.com, obviously, and find me there. And then I'll always either answer phone if you leave a voicemail, email as well, and I can also schedule Zoom and conferencing as well through my Calendly, I even have a little bit of Facebook account and Instagram as well. So those are some of the social platforms you can find me on too. So.
That's great, and so everybody check out mattspcservice.com. We'll have the links there as well. We'll have the links there. You mentioned the LinkedIn and everywhere where they can find you. The number, we'll have that here in the description. And whether you're listening on your favorite platform or watching or on our website, we'll have that stuff there available as well. And like you said, you got to have Google My Business set up and SEO and all these kind of things there in that regard, and being active on LinkedIn or wherever where you want to be found, right? It's things come from all where, and as you mentioned as well, making sure you do a good job, you get referrals as well. But also these things can be highly unpredictable, and take a while to grow in that regard. So a lot of stuff there as well. Now, obviously, right, Mamash Mavericks. This is spotlighting Jewish entrepreneurs, and what I find so fascinating and what I love so much is that obviously all of us here in the tribe, we have our own relationship with Yiddishkeit, with our Judaism, and not everybody here has to be religious or here or everything. We have all kinds of different walks of life, shapes, sizes, colors, and levels of religiosity. But I always find fascinating, what I love so much is that everybody has something that they really connect with on their Judaism, right? Even people who they may say, oh, I'm not connected with anything, I don't really care. And then you ask them a question like, oh, no, that's super important to me. I mean, why wouldn't that? That's of course, right? And it's like, what is it, with your business that you feel like is connected with your Yiddishkeit or your values or anything like that, and what you're doing, and also personally, what is it that kind of drives you personally that maybe you can look and say, oh, you know what, this is something that is raised with, or something here in terms of my Judaism that I connect with.
Well, I am, reformed. I did have a bar mitzvah. I had a very long haftarah. I remember that, unfortunately, fondly. I still have, my Torah, my Talis, and all my Hebrew school books and things of that nature. But I'm more Jewish spiritually um, and spiritually, and also through the culture, than I am anything else. So yes, I'll go to Shabbos. Yes, I can go to Shabbat services. Um, and obviously, I'll observe, the high holy days, especially. I remember one year, I had to start for a new company, and guess where they wanted me to start? On Yom Kippur. I said, it's not happening. Because my boss, he was not Jewish, he was Goyim, but the thing is, his wife was Jewish, so
Wow.
I got lucky, because of that reason alone. But for me, it's the mannerisms, it's the culture. Like, you're such a mocker, or I'm getting for Kleb, talks about yourselves, talk, so I have that, that Ashkenazi background, but also too, it's a matter of, as I mentioned to you, doing my mat mitzvahs, giving chai, if I can, paying it forward, and being a good, not just a good person, but a good Jewish person to people that are also in the Hebrew herd, and then also being tolerant of other people and other religions and other, even sexualities. So again, I've dealt with anti-Semitism before, not fun, and so for me, it's definitely a part of who I am, and as long as you're okay with that and you realize I'm generally kind, I truly want to help people out. I'm definitely a Matt mentioned in that respect. That's my level of Judaism, is how I treat people, and being supportive of others, trying to be empathetic of others, and realize that we're all the human race. Even though I mean, I always get that luxury, giving to people that are less fortunate, especially during the high holy days. And so for me, that's really what it boils down to, is how I leave a positive impact on people, and how I make sure that every year I somehow get into the book of life. And so it's a matter of how you choose to sit there, and to live your life, and be memorable toward others, and the impression that you leave with those people, and hopefully it's positive. So you may forget somebody's face, you may forget their name, but you usually won't forget how they treated you or how they made you feel. So that's basically how I was raised in terms of my Judaism, was to sit there and to be good, and to be kind to others, and to also be tolerant of people that are different from who you are. So
I love that, and that's why asking is so fascinating, because you led right away with like, oh, like religious things, right? Like ritual things, bar mitzvah and talis, and and Yom Kippur and all these kind of things. And I love that story that you shared there about Yom Kippur and starting right, and but then then that stuff, I think, is where people that feel like disconnected, that's where a lot of times people just like kind of, well, this is where I am. But then you went into what really matters to you, and what's really that connection, right? In terms of how you make people feel, and putting forward the best thing, and making sure that you're doing things the right way in that regard, and your mitzvahs, as you call it. And I think that this is the amazing thing about the Jewish people, right? Is that when we're talking about being a victim of anti-Semitism, and even since October 7th, it's not like people change. Yeah, there have been some people radicalized as well, but it just kind of like shows its ugly face. Anti-Semitism, what's always kind of there, and no one's going up to somebody and saying, "Oh, you're Jewish, but you're Reform, right? So you're one of the good ones, or you're this, or you're that, or you really this." And nobody cares, right? And they pretended at least to care at the beginning of October 7th, where they had, the Palestinian crew, and then the those Carta, whatever, and now it's not. Now it's just like, forget about it. We're just gonna go and vandalize anything that's Jewish, and anything that we see is Jewish, and anybody who looks Jewish or is Jewish, we're just gonna go and start beating people up and breaking things, and
Yeah,
and that's kind of
yeah, it sucks. And the problem is, because we're chosen people, we take a lot of shit for it,
yeah.
and we're the scapegoat for a lot of the world's problems and issues, and it's always blame the Jews, um, and then also other minorities. They got after people that are the immigrants in this country, people that are Hispanic. Somebody's always it. Brown people, black people. So um, it's the fact that you have to realize who people are and see them more than just the religion. And so, yes, do I think Adonai is everywhere? Sure. I mean, I do believe in God. I do believe, that there's a certain path that I was chosen to sit there and take in my life. And so, but ultimately, it's how you choose to be as a human, because Adonai can't do everything for you. You have to do it yourself. And so, the Torah is a guideline of how to live your life. It is a template. And so, but ultimately, it's how you are as a human and whether religion comes into play or not. And so, for example, I had my first Christmas this year, and I gave my friends their first Hanukkah. And it wasn't about the religion; it was about being with people and celebrating family. And that was the most important thing. But also, you got to realize that there's always somebody hold it against you for being Jewish, and you appreciate the people that don't, because there are people that will, and instead of dealing with their issues, they'll blame it on you just for who you are, just for your existence. So
Yeah. 100%. And I definitely feel like it's a time that we need to band together, and I think we have, for better for worse, in a lot of different ways. But also, as you mentioned, right, the whole world is one, right? We have to help each other, but also, like you said, it is good to have people out there who don't hate us,
yes,
and to be a shining light onto that as well, and be a shining light onto them, and maintain those relationships as well. So all that stuff is amazing. Now, you mentioned already, how people can find you, and where they can find you and get a hold of you and seek services, which is great. Once again, I'll have all the links there provided. Anything here exciting coming up in the future here for Matt's PC and Mac services, or anything else you want to share with us before we go?
yeah. I mean, probably the one big thing this year is we're getting more involved in AI and more involved in Linux in terms of that OS. Again, AI between automation and bots, and also how you can integrate with different things. For example, Samsung yesterday came out with their new S25 phone, the Ultra, as well as the other models, where the AI can sit there and now choose the best picture based on who's smiling or not. They can also help you with writing notes when you're texting people. They can even help you even sit there and do find like a certain picture, where you use the AI to find something that you're looking for on your device. So I really think that that's going to go a long way in a number of different devices: TVs, smart refrigerators, cars. One of the things I like to do is get a Tesla, because that to me would be a great skill to have. Basically, they're computers on wheels, and I could.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have Teslas down here, and I could feel that that'd be a great market to go into to help people with their EVs and to learn how to use it and get the most out of them. So that's another field I like to sit there and go down as well. So
Wow, yeah, a lot of great stuff, and that's the cool thing. I guess technology is like Torah. Where you can. There's always more to get into. You think, oh, we got this stuff figured out, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I never learned that before, or this is coming new, and we keep uncovering more there. And I think the same thing with technology, right? It's there's so much more always to delve into more stuff, and we live in the future. right? So I know we talk about some of the problems that we have with technology and social media, but there's so much beautiful, amazing things happening, with health and life expectancy and all the kind of great things as well. I think can also be a champion. So a lot of stuff. So gonna have to see you on down the road, so to speak. Have you back on and see how it goes with all that AI stuff. Getting into that as well. But I want to thank you, Matt, for coming on with us today. I really appreciate you, and thank you everybody as well, wherever you are, for making us a part of your day. So. Before I let you know, I said we're going to give you a bracha, right? So it won't be the wine, it won't be the challah, but really you should be zoche to continue to keep putting that foot forward of championing. You mentioned high, right? That you give high, and that this is life. So you continue to have life and continue to give life and grow this business and doing everything for the right way and the right reasons, and have an abundance in this regard and with health and happiness. L'chaim.
Yeah, in that respect, definitely l'chaim to you, and thank you again, Maynard.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.